Welcome students, welcome back again. So today we are going to study our fourth unit, electromagnetic induction and alternating current, and in this we will start with first chapter, that is EMI, means electromagnetic induction. So all the topics which we are going to study here, they will be based on the basic knowledge which we have understood in unit 1, 2 and 3. So those three units, unit 1, unit 2 and unit 3, we have studied so far. You must know the basic concepts from those units, then you will be able to understand better all the concepts here. So let's start our first chapter, that is electromagnetic induction, and here we have the first topic is magnetic flux. So this flux word we have already studied in unit 1, where we have studied about the concept of electric flux. We have already studied there. In comparison to that, here we have to study about magnetic flux. So what is this magnetic flux and how it is related with the electromagnetic induction? Let's understood this concept. So today in our class we are going to study about the concept of electromagnetic induction, and this is the start of our unit 4, electromagnetic induction and alternating currents. So let's start this, the concept of electromagnetic induction, and the topics which we have to study here, these are magnetic flux. First of all, we will study about this slightly. We have already discussed this in previous chapter. Then we have the concept of Faraday's experiment. Michael Faraday, very famous physicist, and he gave the method of production of electricity. Nowadays we are getting electricity by the same process, electromagnetic induction. Here we will study about Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction, then Lenz law and energy conservation law, then expression of induced EMF based on these laws, then methods of producing induced EMF. Three methods are there. These three methods we will study. Then the concept of eddy current, concept of self-induction and self-inductance, and similarly the concept of mutual induction and mutual inductance. So let's start this. First of all, the concept of magnetic flux. Concept of electric flux we have already studied in unit 1, and over there similar simple way of representing electric flux was number of electric field lines passing through the surface held in electric field. Similarly, magnetic field lines passing through a surface, that will be the concept of magnetic flux. So simply, the magnetic flux through any surface is the number of magnetic field lines or magnetic lines of force which are passing normally to the surface. So another method, simple calculation, for simple calculation we can use, it is defined as a product of area of the surface and the component of magnetic field normal to that surface. And the third definition, you all know that it is defined as the dot product of magnetic field intensity and area vector. Suppose we have a surface having certain area, and this is the normal drawn. We can say area vector, it is drawn perpendicular to the surface, and this is the direction of magnetic field. So the component normal to the surface will be b cos theta. For magnetic field B, the component perpendicular to the plane of the coil is b cos theta. So this b cos theta when multiplied by area of the coil or area of the surface will produce the magnetic flux. So small flux is b dot ds, b vector dot ds. Similarly, we can say b vector dot ds. Along with that, ds direction is having n cap. So total flux can be obtained by integrating the expression. Direction of ds is along the normal to the surface, and n cap is the unit normal vector. We can say area vector also. So d phi will be b ds cos theta, simple concept of dot product, and phi will be b vector dot a vector or b into a, where n cap is the unit vector perpendicular to the plane of the coil. So again b a cos theta. This is obtained by integration of the above expression. Now the concept of different types of values of the flux. First one is positive flux. So magnetic flux will be obtained positive if the angle between magnetic field and area vector is greater or equal to 0 degree but lesser than 90 degree means it is acute. And similarly, if it is greater than 270 degree and lesser than or equal to 360 degree means for one round complete. Then zero flux will be obtained at the fixed angles, angle 90 degree and angle 270 degree. The magnetic flux will be 0. Similarly, the negative flux will be obtained in between 90 degree to 270 degree. Understood? So you can note down this if required. And let's move to the next concept. One more thing, flux will be maximum when theta is 0 and theta is 360 degree. So the formula will be phi is equals to BA, or BA cos theta is the total flux. So now magnetic flux formula is BA cos theta. So in this formula we can have dependency of this flux on three factors. One is magnetic field intensity, another one is area, and third one is the angle between the two factors. So by changing these three factors we can have change in magnetic flux to any surface or coil. So methods are: number one, by changing the strength of the magnetic field B. This can be done by bringing magnet closer or farther away, or we can change the strength by changing its source. Another one is changing the area of the cross section of the coil, and third one is the rotation of the coil with the respect to magnetic field, or any combination of these three. So the magnetic flux basic concept: magnetic flux is a scalar quantity being a dot product. Then SI unit of magnetic flux is Weber or Tesla meter square. Weber is denoted by WB. W is capital, B is small, Tesla meter square is there. Then CGS unit is Maxwell, or we can say it is Gauss centimeter square. And the relation between Maxwell and Weber is 1 Maxwell is equals to 10 to the power minus 8 Weber, or in reverse we can say 1 Weber is equals to 10 to the power 8 Maxwell. So the magnetic flux associated always normally per unit area is called magnetic flux density, or strength of magnetic field, or magnetic field induction, or magnetic field intensity. In any way we can express this term. So you can note down this relation if required. Now coming to the very important concept, Faraday's experiment. Michael Faraday established that whenever there is relative motion between a magnet and the coil or circuit, there is production of electric current in the circuit. See, this is the circuit in the form of a coil, solenoid, and this is a galvanometer which shows deflection only and only when current passes through it. So let's see what is going to happen. When this magnet north pole is brought closer to the left one coil, it is having current and galvanometer was showing deflection. You can see it again. In this coil, galvanometer is showing deflection, as well as in another coil also the magnetic this galvanometer is showing deflection. Once more we can see this, both of them are giving deflection, and here we can check that the direction of deflection is opposite in the two cases. The two galvanometer are giving two different deflection, and the deflection in the galvanometer is only possible when there is current in the circuit. Now another important thing, this circuit has no cell or battery associated with this. Still it is having current, and current is obtained only when this magnet was moving. In another case we can see, this time we are bringing south pole towards the left coil. See, with respect to upper diagram, the direction of current is again reversed. Both the galvanometers were giving deflection, and this time again the direction of current in these two is also opposite, as well as in these two also opposite. This is because of different polarity which we are moving with respect to the coil. So this was the experiment given by Faraday, or Michael Faraday, in which he established that whenever magnetic there is a relative motion between magnet and the coil, which means either magnet moves with respect to coil or coil moves with respect to stationary magnet, or both can move. There will be production of electric current in the circuit, and this is known as electromagnetic induction. Electro because electric current is produced, magnetic because with the help of magnet it is done, and it is without any physical contact, so induction. So basically what it is, let's see. When there is relative motion between a magnet and the coil, then the magnet, which is having magnetic flux spreading throughout its region, it will be passing through this coil, and initially the flux in the coil is zero. This is important thing, that here the magnetic flux through this coil is zero initially, but when we will bring this magnet towards this coil, the magnetic flux through the coil will start increasing from 0 to certain value, and hence, see, when this coil is having flux of the magnet, its magnetic flux changes, and that will brought the electric current in the circuit. So magnetic flux linked with the coil relative to the position of the coil and magnet due to magnetic lines of force cutting at different angles at the same cross-sectional area of the coil. So what we have to observe, that relative motion between the coil and the magnet is there. Then induced polarities of the magnetism in the coil, that is also important. The direction of current through the galvanometer and hence the deflection in the galvanometer. So the induced current, the current developed in the circuit is called the induced current, and that is because of the EMF developed in the circuit, which is called induced EMF. They are available only as long as there is relative motion between the coil and the magnet. The moment this relative motion stops, the moment when the change in the magnetic flux stops, they are also eliminated from the circuit. So important one, coil can be moved by fixing the magnet, or both coil and magnet can be moved towards each other or away from each other. Overall, there must be a relative motion between the two. So the magnetic flux linked with the coil changes relative to the position of the coil and the magnet, that will depend on their position, and therefore current, first of all EMF, then current, and hence the deflection will be produced in the galvanometer, and this will be large if the relative velocity between the two, means coil and the magnet, is large, and hence the rate of change of flux across the coil is more. So greater will be the rate of change of flux, greater will be the deflection. This will show greater amount of current is developed in the circuit in the form of induced current. So if required, you can note down this. Now another method of Faraday's experiment, one more is there. We have a coil, P for primary coil is there, and there is a circuit with open key. This circuit is having no current passing through the coil, and we have one more coil connected with galvanometer. This is called secondary coil, and galvanometer means this will going to show deflection, but in second coil there is no battery at all. So the moment when we close the key, see, the moment we are closing the key, this will passing current here, and hence this will passing magnetic flux from primary to secondary. The magnetic flux will be passing from primary coil to secondary coil, and hence the secondary coil is having change in flux, and hence the current is developed in the circuit. So it is not necessary that we use direct magnet, even we can use electromagnet also for changing the magnetic flux. Another way, this closed circuit which is having current, but here the current is not changing, so magnetic flux passing through primary as well as secondary is a constant value, and hence no deflection in the secondary coil. But the moment when we open this key, so that current reduces to zero, there will be again fallback of the magnetic flux, and due to change in magnetic flux, again current developed in the secondary coil. Let's see, key opened, magnetic flux reduces, and hence again current developed, although it is developed for instant, because for instant only it is observed change in flux. So the main concept is when the primary circuit is closed, current grows from 0 to maximum value. During this period, changing current induces changing magnetic flux across the primary coil, and hence this changing magnetic flux is linked with the secondary coil and therefore induces EMF or current in the secondary coil. So induced EMF and hence deflection in the galvanometer lasts only and only when the current in the primary coil changes, and hence the magnetic flux in the secondary coil also changes. So overall this will produce the effect of electromagnetic induction with certain laws. So whenever the primary circuit is open, current decreases from maximum to zero value. This will cause during this period changing current induces changing magnetic flux across the primary coil, that will bring change across the secondary coil, and hence the current in the secondary coil developed. One more important thing, that the direction of current in the secondary coil is reversed this time, and hence the deflection in the galvanometer is opposite to that of the previous case. So by following these observations, Faraday gave few laws related to electromagnetic induction. Basically two laws are there. Law number one, Faraday's first law, it states that whenever magnetic flux linked with the circuit changes, then EMF is developed in the circuit, which is called induced EMF. And the important information is the induced EMF exists or lasts in the circuit till the change in the magnetic flux continues. So whenever there is change in magnetic flux, this is very important. This is basically the cause of electromagnetic induction. The change in magnetic flux linked with the circuit, an EMF and a current are developed in the circuit called induced EMF and induced current, and it lasts so long till the magnetic flux is changing. The moment the change in magnetic flux stops, the current, induced EMF and current also stops. Now the second law, this states that the magnitude of the induced EMF which is developed in the circuit due to change in magnetic flux, this is directly proportional to the rate of change of magnetic flux linked with the circuit. Uh, Here the two factors are there in the rate of change. One is change in the value of magnetic flux, another one time taken. So E is directly proportional to d phi by d phi, and is inversely proportional to dt. So hence it will be rate of change of rate of change of magnetic flux. E will be induced EMF will be directly proportional to this. Breaking this proportionality, we will get a constant, and the value of constant in SI system will be 1. So it will be E is equals to d phi by dt. And d phi is the change in flux. We can say it final flux minus initial flux divided by time. You can note down the relation if required. Moving to the next concept. So now the Lenz law, very important concept related to Faraday's law. The direction of induced EMF or induced current is such that it always opposes the cause responsible for its production, that means the change that is producing it. So the direction of induced EMF or induced current, they will be produced in the circuit in such a way that they will always try to oppose the change responsible for their production. Means if the current is induced due to the motion of the magnet, then the induced current in the coil will be developed in such a way that it will try to stop the motion of the magnet. Similarly, if the current is induced due to change in current in the primary coil, it will have tendency, or induced current have tendency that it will try to stop the change in the primary coil. So from this we can say the Lenz law is in support of the law of conservation of energy. How? According to Lenz law, the induced EMF opposes the change that produces it. Hence, this opposition against, we have to perform some mechanical work so as to maintain the change in the magnetic flux, and hence that mechanical energy is converted into electrical energy. So hence we can say that Lenz law is in accordance with the law of conservation of energy. However, the reverse would happen. The induced EMF does not oppose or aids the change. Then a little change in magnetic flux would produce an induced current which would help the change of flux further. thereby producing more current, and hence the increased EMF would then cause further change of flux and it would further increase the current and so on. This would create energy out of nothing, which means there is no concept of law of conservation of energy. So the concept of conservation of energy by Lange law can be explained by this portion. So if required, you can note down this relation also. Now the concept of expression for induced EMF based on these laws as E is equals to minus d phi by dt or minus of phi 2 by phi 1 on t minus of phi 2 minus phi 1 by t, and if there are n turns in the coil or in the circuit, then it will be multiplied with n in the same way. And now the expression for induced current, it will be induced EMF divided by resistance of the circuit. So simple formula for current is equals to voltage upon resistance, and expression for charge will be charge is current is dq by dt. So dt will be adjusted from this and hence dq will be minus d phi by r. So induced EMF does not depend on the resistance of the circuit, whereas the induced current and induced charge will depend on the resistance. Now the methods of producing induced EMF. Number one, we have already discussed that actually induced EMF is produced because of change in magnetic flux. So the three methods which we have already studied, which were used to change magnetic flux, they are used to produce induced EMF also. Number one is by changing magnetic field by bringing magnet towards or away from the coil. Same way we have discussed in Faraday first experiment. So magnetic flux phi that can be changed by changing the magnetic field B, and hence EMF can be induced in the circuit. Then another method, before that you can note down this if required. Another one is by changing the area of coil available in the magnetic field. This is basically an important concept which will tell us about the concept of motional EMF. So what is that motional EMF? Let's see. The EMF produced by motion of the conductor. The magnetic flux phi can be changed by changing area of the loop which is acted upon by the magnetic field, and hence EMF can be induced in the circuit. Suppose this is the downward magnetic field, downward uniform perpendicular magnetic field, and in this we are placing a coil just at the uh, boundary of the magnetic field. So this uh, ES conductor, it is having certain magnetic flux, but it is passing through this portion of area only. The magnetic flux passing through this portion of area, this shaded one. Now the moment when we push this coil within the magnetic field, the area passing through this magnetic field, or we can say the magnetic field passing through the area of the coil, will increase, and hence magnetic field will increase, so magnetic flux will increase, and hence induced EMF will be developed. See, the moment we have shifted this is the shaded portion which have been treated as increase in area, and increase in area means change in area, change in area means change in magnetic flux. Due to this, suppose the coil has been moved through the velocity v, so the distance traveled by this in time t will be vt, this s dash to s will be vt, length of the conductor is l. Suppose this conductor is having length l, this is the distance, speed into time, and the loop PQRS is slided into the uniform and perpendicular magnetic field. The change or increase in area of the coil under the influence of magnetic field is dA in time dt. This will cause change in magnetic flux as d phi. So putting in the formula, magnetic flux is having B into area, where area of this shaded region will be length into breadth. Length is L, breadth is V into dt. So this will be the formula for d phi. Now the formula for induced EMF is minus d phi by dt. So cancelling this dt and dt, we will get minus BLV. This will be the formula for induced EMF in the coil because of its motion, and hence we call this as motional EMF. The induced EMF is due to the motion of the loop, and hence it is called motional EMF. If the loop is pulled out of the magnetic field, then it will be again BLV, but of reversed, so it will be plus BLV. So this is again, L means length of the conductor which is moving in the magnetic field, and the direction of the induced current is anti-clockwise in the loop. That means P dash, S dash, R dash, Q dash, P dash by Fleming's right hand rule, or we can say it is in accordance with Lenz law. So you can note down this relation also if required. So moving to the next. So according to Lenz law, the direction of induced current is such that it opposes the cause of changing magnetic flux. So hence cause of changing magnetic flux is due to motion of the loop, and hence increase in area of the coil in the uniform magnetic field. So in accordance with this, the motion of the loop is to be opposed. So the current is setting itself such that by Fleming's left hand rule, the conductor arm PS experiences force to the right, whereas the loop is trying to move to the left. So if you go backward, you can observe the magnetic field, the magnetic force acting on the side PS will be towards the right side as compared to the by applying the Fleming's left hand rule, and this is basically opposite to the motion of the loop, which means the current produced is opposing the motion of the loop, and the work done against the work done for the motion of the loop, that is converted into electric energy. So against this force, mechanical work is done, and that is converted into electric energy. Hence law of conservation of energy is there. If the loop is completely inside the boundary, this is another important point. If the loop is completely inside the magnetic field, then there will be no change in area that through which the magnetic field is passing, and hence there will be no change in flux, and therefore in that case no EMF induced will be there in the loop. Now the Fleming's right hand rule, the rule used to represent the direction of induced current. Again we have to use our right hand, first finger, central finger and thumb mutually perpendicular to each other, such that first finger is giving magnetic field, thumb is giving the force or motion of the conductor, then central finger will give the direction of induced current. So if the central finger, forefinger and thumb of right hand are stretched mutually perpendicular to each other, such that the forefinger is giving the direction of magnetic field and thumb is giving the direction of motion or force, then central finger will give the direction of induced current. So this law as well as Lenz law, they are supporting the direction of induced current, which we have discussed. If required, you can note down this relation also, and then we are moving to next. Now the third method of changing magnetic flux is by changing angle theta. So magnetic flux phi can be changed by changing the relative orientation loop. Theta can be changed with respect to the magnetic field, and hence the EMF can be developed in the circuit. Suppose this is a uniform magnetic field, and in this we have placed a coil. This is a rectangular coil which we have placed, making certain angle with the magnetic field. The moment we start rotating this coil, the angle between the plane of the coil and the magnetic field will also change, as well as the angle between the normal to the plane of coil and magnetic field will also change. See, the rotation is there for the coil with the help of certain angular velocity omega. So angle between magnetic field and this normal to the plane of coil, which can be treated as a vector, area vector is. So see, this is the coil PQRS, and this is normal to the plane of the coil. Angle theta is there. So magnetic flux is BA cos theta. For n turns, it is n into BA cos theta. So at time t, the angular velocity is omega, which can be written as angle is equals to angular velocity into t. Simple formula is there. So the formula can be written as phi is equals to NBA cos omega t. Now differentiating it with respect to time, d phi by dt, which is called induced EMF, we can be taken as NBA as constant. Then for cos omega t, it is omega sine omega t. Differentiation formula is there. And because d phi by dt is E, so we can write it as minus d phi by dt is E. So it can be written as NBA omega sine omega t. Now NBA omega will be the constant maximum value of the EMF because sine omega t will be maximum at 1. So BAN omega or NBA omega will be the maximum EMF. We can treat it as E naught, and hence the expression is equals to E naught sine omega t, which is the similar term in the form of sinusoidal form, and hence the EMF produced will be in the form of sinusoidal. So if required, you can note down this relation. We are going to study about basic technical part of this. The EMF changes continuously in magnitude as well as periodically in direction with respect to time, give rise to the alternating form of the EMF like this. Suppose this is the time axis where theta is equals to omega t. Angles are 0, pi by 2, pi, 3 pi by 2 and 2 pi. This 2 pi is 0 to 2 pi is giving one complete rotation, one complete cycle is there, then further rotation is there. So times are t by 4, t by 2. Here it will be at 0, time will be 0 even. So at pi by 2 angle it is t by 4, then t by 2, 3t by 4 and t. Here one cycle is completed, and see how the EMF is changing in this way. So this is the one complete cycle till here. Sinusoidal sine form is there, that is accordance with the expression. Maximum value is E naught. The initial position of the coil is taken as 0 degree, the normal to the plane of the coil is at 90 degree. In that case, theta will become theta plus pi by 2 or omega t plus pi by 2. So sine 90 plus theta or sine 90 plus omega t becomes cos omega, and this can be expressed in the way E is equals to E naught cos omega t also. For that, the sinusoidal form will be in the form of cos curve, already studied in 11th class. This is the cos waveform, and alternating EMF. Consequently, again alternating current can be produced in the form of sine or cos functions. So this method of inducing EMF is the basic principle of the generators. In this way we get alternating current and alternating EMF obtained from the AC generators. So if required, you can note down this entire relation. Then we are moving to next. Now another case of electromagnetic induction is in the form of eddy currents, also known as Foucault currents. Foucault is the name of the scientist who discovered this, and eddy is basically is used for eddies formed in the water. It's like bhavar produced in the water. So the induced circulating or looping currents, that's why we call this as eddy, because it is circulating currents produced in the solid metal or block metals due to the change in magnetic flux again, and hence they are called eddy currents. Basically eddy currents are nothing but the induced current because of induced EMF, but they are produced not in the wire circuits or any part of the circuit. It is basically produced in the bulk pieces of metals. Suppose this is a bulk metallic block, and this is the magnetic flux which is changing through it. So due to change in magnetic flux, these are the circulating currents, current in the circular form, like the eddies formed in the water. So we call these currents as eddy currents. The currents are rotating, circulating, looping currents are there due to change in magnetic flux with the metallic block, and hence it is called eddy current. So these are the eddy currents, and their applications are in induction furnace. Eddy currents are used for melting iron ores, for making alloys. Then in speedometer also, eddy currents are used to measure the instantaneous speed of the vehicle. Then similarly in deadbeat galvanometer, in making of the deadbeat galvanometer, eddy currents are used to stop the oscillation, or we can say stop the damping of the coil in shorter interval, so that equilibrium position can be reached easily. Then in electric brakes of the train, eddy currents are produced to stop the rotation of the axle of the wheel. Again magnetic braking action is there. Then in energy meters, electric meters, eddy currents are used to measure the consumption of electric energy. And similarly in diathermy, eddy currents are used for localized heating of tissues in the human body. Diathermy is the phenomena in which we used to remove the strain, physical strain, by the help of heating substances with the help of eddy currents in the human body. So these are few applications of the eddy currents. So you can note down this if required. And after this, let's move to the next topic, the important segment, which will be very important with respect to the board examination. Let's discuss to that also.
So till here we have studied about the concept of eddy current, which are also the form of induced current by the process of electromagnetic induction. This we have already studied now, and now we have to discuss about some limitations of these currents also. Although we have studied about the applications, very useful applications we have for these currents, but they have certain limitations also. And what are those limitations? Number one is it has tendency to oppose because of the concept of Lenz law. This current always opposes the cause responsible for its production, so it has tendency to oppose the relative motion. Another thing, it produces excess of heat in the devices, which may lead to the uh, downfall of the life span of the device, and its efficiency also reduces. So where eddy currents are useful, we have methods to produce them, to enhance them, but when they are not required, they are not desired, so we have to remove them. So whenever we are dealing with the elimination of the eddy current, it is not possible, because whenever we are dealing with the case of working of any device on alternating current, there may be continuous change in magnetic flux. Most of the devices are made up of metal pieces, so eddy currents must be there and they cannot be eliminated, but we can reduce them. We have certain methods to reduce the eddy currents, where number one is by using laminated iron core. Suppose if we need to use an iron block or iron metal piece in any of the device, so over there, in place of using this entire block, we can use this block in the form of sheets, plain sheets, which are insulated from each other. So here the magnitude of the eddy current is splitted in each sheet, which are insulated from each other, and hence its magnitude reduces. Another method is by slacking of the metal sheets. In place of this complete metal sheet, we can consider it in the form of pieces, where if we merge these two pieces towards each other, they will form the metal plate. But again, it is consisting of two different separated pieces which are insulated from each other, and hence the magnitude of the eddy current reduces. So these are few methods by which we can reduce eddy currents as and when required. Otherwise they are very useful, that we have already studied. So you can note down this portion also. So now we are going to study about very important special case of electromagnetic induction, or we can say another form of electromagnetic induction, which is known as self induction. Here the word induction represents the same term electromagnetic induction, in which we have already studied that whenever there is change in magnetic flux, this is very important, change in magnetic flux must be there. Anyhow we can produce it, either by bringing magnet towards the coil or away from the coil, or bringing coil towards the magnet or away from the magnet. Another method which we have studied means here we were changing magnetic field. Another method we have studied by changing area of the uh, portion of the circuit which is uh, projected towards or exposed towards the magnetic field. And third method was rotating the coil in the magnetic field. Anyhow we are changing the magnetic field with respect to the circuit, there must be change in magnetic flux. Magnetic flux changes will produce electromagnetic induction phenomena, in which induced EMF will be developed in the circuit, and that will be developed in every condition. Along with that, if circuit is closed, this is important, if circuit is closed, then current will also produce, and that is known as induced current. And according to Lenz law, we know that this induced current has tendency to oppose any change responsible for its production. It has tendency to oppose any change or oppose the cause responsible for its production. So on the basis of that, we have self induction. Induction means electromagnetic induction. Self means circuit has tendency to produce this on its own. No need to bring any other source from the outside. So basically, what is this? This is basically the property of a coil. Coil we have in the form of solenoid, and it is that property due to which it has tendency to always oppose any change in strength of current, the magnitude of current flowing through it. And how it will oppose? By inducing an EMF, means induced EMF in itself. See what is going to be done here. This is the solenoid coil connected with a source of EMF, which will produce electric current in the circuit when this key is closed. So certain current is passing through it, I current is passing through it. The moment current starts passing through it, this current will have electromagnetic magnetism, that we have already studied about magnetic effects of current, and this current will produce certain magnetic field lines passing through this coil. Now this is the source of constant current. Constant current is passing through it. DC current is going here, DC is going here. So the value of current will remain same. The magnitude of the magnetic field produced due to this current will also be same. Now we need to change the magnetic flux. So for that we have used in this circuit as rheostat R is there, and this rheostat, when we change this R, there will be change in current. Suppose value of R is reduced, so that current is increasing, and this increase in current will create increase in magnetic flux linked with this coil, and due to change in the magnetic flux, induced EMF will be there, induced current will be there, and this induced current has tendency to oppose the cause responsible for its production, and the cause is increase in current. So induced EMF and induced current will produce in this direction. This is induced EMF or current we can say, and they will, now what they are doing, they are opposing this flow of current. So this is the property of the coil itself, in which when the current passing through the coil starts changing, induced EMF will be developed in the circuit, and it will oppose the change in current passing through the coil. So here the coil is producing electromagnetic induction on its own, on itself, and that's why we call this as self-induction. So self-induction is the property of the coil due to which it always opposes the change in strength of the current or change in magnitude of the current flowing through it by inducing an EMF in itself. So here let's find out some relationship. For this let us consider N is number of turns in coil, and phi is flux per turn in coil. So first of all, if we observe the total flux passing through this coil, on what factor it is depending, so we can say that it is because of this current. So the total flux in this coil will be depending on the current. So this is obtained from the experimental observation, that it is found that total flux, that means total magnetic flux, this will be depending on current in the coil. So we can say total flux per turn is phi, means for 1 turn it is phi, so for 2 turn it will be 2 phi, for 10 turn it is 10 phi, so n turn it will be n phi. This n phi will be proportional to I, and if we break this proportionality, we will get n phi equal to, and a constant Li, where this term L, this is called coefficient of self-induction. The formula is n phi by I, and from this formula only, if we need to write the unit will be magnetic flux is Weber and current is ampere, so Weber per ampere. Let's bring it to the next level. So according to Faraday's second law, the induced EMF is equals to minus n d phi by dt, which can be written as minus of d by dt of n phi. We have taken this n inside, and using this relation we can say equation number 1, n phi is equivalent to li. So here in place of n phi we can put d by dt of li, where l is constant, so can be taken outside, l di by dt, and from this we can write L is equals to minus E upon di by dt. This is the relationship. This one is also can be used anywhere, whenever or in the form of what it is required, we can use it. Now from this relationship we can define the concept of L. So from this, if we are going to define L, so definition of L means coefficient of self induction. If we consider di by dt as 1 ampere per second, means rate of change of current is 1 ampere per second, then L will be equal to minus E, or we can say L is numerically equal to E. Here minus sign is representing the opposing nature of the induced EMF or induced current, and hence from this here we can note down. While noting down these notes, you just remember that after this we are coming here. Hence coefficient of self induction is numerically equal to induced EMF in coil when rate of change of current is unit in coil. When rate of change of current is unit in the coil, then in that case the coefficient of self induction is numerically equal to induced EMF. Then SI unit we can write Weber per ampere, we have already written, or it is also denoted by Henry, denoted by capital H. So this is the concept of self induction, which is associated in the form of electromagnetic induction. It is associated with a coil, and from now onwards this coil, whose name we know this, it is what? It is solenoid. From this topic onwards we can call this as inductor also. Why inductor? Because it has tendency to create induction. Which induction? Electromagnetic induction. So because this coil has tendency to produce electromagnetic induction, we can call this as inductor also, which is another important device used in the electrical circuits. So you can note down this relation by pausing the video. So now we will study about the concept of coefficient of self induction of long solenoid, also known as self inductance. We can call this coefficient of self induction as a self inductance also. If we are dealing with self induction, we call it as coefficient of self induction or only self inductance. So this is applicable for a long solenoid. We are going to find its a relation for this long solenoid, and here what we have considered, this is a solenoid of length L, number of turns capital N, and the relation between the two can be written as N by L, which we have studied in the topic Ampere circuital law. Over there we have calculated the magnetic field due to this solenoid also. Suppose if current enters through this end, this will become south, current leaving from this end, it will become north, and magnetic field inside will be B, south to north, and on taking area vector on this coil, it will be A vector in the same direction, so angle between the two will be 0 degree. So that we have already calculated in the previous topic, that as total flux, or we can consider first of all, let phi is flux per turn in coil. So as total magnetic flux is proportional to magnitude of current. This is magnitude of current, so total flux N phi is proportional to I, or N phi is equals to Li. This relation we can use directly also, which means L is N phi by I, and here it is in the form of first equation. So now let's see the value of phi here. So now magnetic flux that will be required here, magnetic flux phi, this is B vector and A vector in dot product, which can be used as BA cos theta, where theta is 0 degree, so cos 0 will be 1. So magnetic flux will be BA, where B is the magnetic field inside the current carrying solenoid, and that we have already calculated as mu naught Ni by L. This is the value of B. A, putting in equation first. So putting in equation first, we will get L is equals to N by I into phi. Phi is mu naught Nia by L. So I and I is cancelled. N and N becomes N square, and the formula is mu naught N square A by L. This is the formula for coefficient of self-induction of the long solenoid, and very important, here L is depending on the nature of the medium, depending on square of the number of turns, directly proportional to area and inversely proportional to length. So from this concept, basically from this portion, because it is depending on medium, we can have some special cases, very important, for air cooled coil or solenoid. Air cooled means the solenoid which will be having air as the core material. It will be having certain number of turns, current and factors. So here, because of air, we consider its magnetic this coefficient of self induction as L naught, which is mu naught N square A by L, carrying current I, number of turns N, cross section area A, and length L. Now if we have iron cored coil, for iron cored coil, iron cored coil means we have an iron bar over which the coil is wounded in this way, carrying current I, number of turns N, cross section area A again. This time it is for medium, so L medium will be mu N square A by L. Or if we need to write it for mu naught, we know this, it can be written as L medium is equals to mu naught mu R, mu naught N square A by L. This is the formula for mu, permeability of the medium is permeability of air multiplied by relative permeability, and the expression within this bracket, this portion, this is L naught. So clearly L medium is equals to mu R L naught, or L medium upon L naught is mu R for especially for ferromagnetic materials means this iron bar, it is much greater than 1, and hence clearly we can see that Lm is much greater than L naught. This is very important, which will be used in the next chapter, that whenever we insert an iron bar in an air cooled coil or solenoid, its ability of L will increase. It will have more ability to oppose more change in current flowing through the coil. So you can note down this relation also. So with this, we have understood one more form of electromagnetic induction in the form of self-induction. Along with this, we have one more topic that is known as mutual induction, but that we will study in next class. We are winding up today's class. So in this, whatever we have studied, this is the basic introduction of electromagnetic induction. You must know all the concepts here, especially related to electromagnetic induction, how flux can be changed while it is passing through any type of circuit. So you must revise these, try the questions based on these topics more and more, and you will be able to go in deep in these topics. So enough for today's class. Then we will meet in next class with more topics related to electromagnetic induction, and till then, take care. Goodbye.